So it's very helpful to make sure that someone's actually gotten to read it before, to check for those pesky things, because sometimes the person reading it may choose not to interview you solely because of typos, which seems lame, but it happens. We want it to be an appropriate font style and size. So I always get questions about this. So the font style on your sample resume is Garamond, which is a serif-based font. Does anyone know what a serif is? Usually people don't. So a serif is the tiny line at the bottom of like a P, an H, an N. So it's at the bottom of most letters. It's this tiny line. So Times New Roman is a serif-based font. The font on this slide is a sans serif font. So you'll notice no tiny lines, right? So sans serif fonts are things like Calibri, Verdana, those types of fonts, Arial. If you're using a serif-based font, you need to have your text a little bit larger because otherwise it doesn't shrink down easily. If you're using a sans serif, you can go down to even a size 10 or 11. That's probably more standard. So it's up to you. 10 to 12 is the typical kind of range, but regardless, just make sure to print it out and actually see, right? So my personal favorite test is actually just to print out your resume, hold it at arm's length, and ask yourself, do I actually want to read this? And if you don't want to read it, probably no one else wants to read it, right? So it's a helpful kind of tip. And if that's the case, come visit us. We can help you kind of figure out how can I make it more readable or more interesting. We want it to be clean, organized, easy to read. Do save it as a PDF if you're submitting it through Hire a Longhorn. If you're just bringing it to the fair, I would encourage you to print on nice paper. There's many places to purchase nice paper, high quality resume paper. So, stuff to not include. Even though many of us work at UT has a lot of jargon and acronyms, and frankly, there are some that I don't even know about, right? And I've worked here for 3 years now. So I encourage you to avoid using abbreviations or acronyms because frankly, they just make it hard to understand. And you want this to be as easy as possible to understand. In general, in your bullets, you don't actually need pronouns or articles because they're not full sentences. So it will read a little weird at first, but you'll kind of notice if it helps you fit that bullet on one line as opposed to having a little bit of text on a second line, that saves you some space. It can be helpful. We avoid lengthy paragraphs and long sentences because we don't read it. Again, think about when you get an email that's more than 3 or 4 sentences long, how likely are you to read that email? Maybe y'all are totally solid, but when I get like a 5-sentence email, usually I flag it and I'm going to look at that a little bit later when I have more time. So chances are good people aren't going to read it. If you have to download a bullet point, you know how in Word, right, there's the standard ones. If you have to download something, it's probably not a bullet I would use. Just stick with the standard bullets, circle, square, etc. And it is actually illegal for them to ask for any additional personal information or headshots from you. So just so you know, they have no reason to know your birth date, marital status, etc. I say this because like we do searches all the time and I get headshots at least on one of the resumes of people applying to be career counselors like me, which is semi-shocking. All right, how many of you have ever written or have heard of a cover letter? Sweet, so many people. How many of you are frustrated by writing a cover letter? Equal amounts, fantastic. So, this is totally normal, just so you know. Is a cover letter required for the positions you'll be applying for? Not necessarily. In the Vic Center, we like to require it because I think it's a good kind of practice test for you to get in the habit of writing them. In general, if the position requires you to write one, I'd include it. If they don't require it, it never hurts you to include one. Cover letters are essentially a chance to bring your resume alive. So your resume itself is just sort of a list of facts about you, right? Semi-boring, maybe not so boring, but it's not necessarily personalized to that company in the same way. Your cover letter is a chance to help explain in your own words why all that stuff you did is relevant for that company or relevant for that person. So it's your chance to bring your resume alive. Therefore, you're probably guessing cover letters really genuinely need to be written for every single position you apply for. So here's some tips on how to do that. So my cheat sheet is this three-pronged system. Generally, a cover letter is not going to be long, not more than a page, definitively, usually 3 paragraphs, if that. Section 1 just needs to address what you're applying for, why you're applying for it, if you were referred by anyone, and a general statement about your fit with the position. So for example, I'm very excited to submit my application for the ULN internship position with the Gender and Sexuality Center. I've had the privilege of getting to interact with staff from the center and find that the mission of the center is really important to the university. I'm excited for the opportunity to get to provide social media marketing for that organization and feel that I'm an ideal candidate for the position, right? I just rambled that, but that's the basics of what you want to say. If you know of someone that works there, it's helpful to mention that. Section 2 is the hard part to write. This is really the meat, so to speak, of the resume. This is where you highlight a couple key experiences and help explain why they're relevant for that position. Right? So that's how you demonstrate how your qualifications meet the requirements of the position, in your own words. It's not everything you've done, because that's what your resume is, right? It's just taking a few and helping them understand in your own words why it's relevant. What's helpful to know, especially when you're starting off, we kind of default to saying like what it is you want out of an internship. That's not the point. The point is what we can offer. And finally, section 3, thankfully the easiest one to write. It's literally just saying, I'm excited to apply, right? Reiterating your interests and summarizing your abilities. Based on my education and experience, I make an ideal candidate for this position. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to hearing from you. Please let me know if you have any questions. My resume is attached. Boom, that's it. So that's the basics of how to approach writing a cover letter. Again, is it required for what you're doing? Not necessarily. Check HireU Texas to see whether or not the person is requiring you to do it. It will never hurt you to do a cover letter though, trust. It will always kind of help you stand out from other candidates. The benefit of doing a cover letter also is that it gets you in the habit of being able to be your own verbal cover letter. So, Allison next week is going to talk to you more about the specifics of the ULN fair and interviewing tips. So I'm kind of here to help prepare the way with the resume. But in general, you are going to be introducing yourselves to employers and serve as your own verbal cover letter to help explain why you're interested and why you stop by their table, right? So that's why it can be helpful to do. General, frequently asked questions. You don't need to include references. Don't include it. You also don't need an objective. Objectives are not really necessary anymore. They used to be on the top of resumes saying what you were applying to, but it was sort of redundant. GPA, I get a lot of questions about this. You've had one semester here, so you can put your GPA if you want to, but by no means are any positions requiring a specific GPA. So feel free to put it on if you're stoked about it and avoid it if you don't want to talk about it. Right? Like, this is your document. So dates, again, I would encourage you to just be consistent in whatever dates you use. We don't care if it's month year to month year or another format. Templates. I get this question all the time. So, my main feedback is if you want to start with a template, to please choose what I call a vetted template. A vetted template you'll find on a career service office's website. We're trying to get ours uploaded, sorry, but the Macomb School of Business has one, College of Natural Sciences has one, so you can look at those example resumes to get some ideas for formatting. All the ones you see in our handout were built in Word with like our own bare hands, so it's very easy to do. I would encourage you to not use a template that's just off of online somewhere, because I promise you, unless your experience somehow magically lines up with exactly how they formatted it, it'll get messed up, you'll get frustrated, and you'll be annoyed that it's not working the way you want it to. So build from the ground up. You've got lots of examples here to kind of use. So, where do you go? If you have questions about this process, you have 2 different places on campus that I'd highly recommend visiting. So, I work for the Vic Center. As I said, we do career counseling and major exploration. So I help students figure out 3 things about their lives. Who am I? What am I all about? And what is it that I might want to do? We also offer career assessments, we do internship and graduate school planning, and we look over resumes and personal statements for graduate school and for changing your major. So we do all of that, and for internships. So if you want to see us, there are 3 different ways to do so. So you can come to one of our mini presentations we do. You can make an appointment with us. Easiest way is online. Our information is on the handout, or you can just Google Vic Center UT, and that's how you make an appointment. Or you can come for a drop-in appointment. Drop-ins are available Mondays through Thursdays, 1 to 3 p.m. in our office. We are in Jester A115, caddy corner to the Starbucks nearest Wendy's, that kind of area. So feel free to come visit us. We'd love to see you. Just so you know, sometimes we get really inundated in drop-ins, so I would encourage you earlier rather than later. You also have access to your college-specific career service office. So there are 17 career service offices on this campus, which is complicated. So each of you, how many of you are in the College of Natural Science? No woos or anything, that's okay. So if you're in the College of Natural Science, you have access to CNS Career Services. Are any of you in the School of Undergraduate Studies? Woo, that's right, just a few. Anyway, so you have access to us also, so yay. But each of you have access to a college-specific career service office. They host career fairs, do resume reviews, mock interviews, and generally help you in finding internships and full-time jobs. That's their whole goal. So use either one, you can use both, but I'd encourage you to seek out help as you prep your materials so that you can choose between the internships and really kind of find one you like. Before you go, before I really release you to John so he can give announcements, if you will take out a device that connects to the internet in any way, doesn't matter which one, and type in the following link, bit.ly/VicSurvey1617, there will be a very quick, literally like 5-question long survey. Please give us feedback to help us make our presentations better and more fun. So our topic is resume writing tonight, in case you forgot, and our presenter is Veronica Heiskell. Typically I have to scroll down to find my name. So take a few minutes, and I'll be up here in case any of you have any questions.
Okay, while you guys are completing that survey to provide Veronica some quality feedback, please be forthcoming with that. All our speakers enjoy hearing, what they've done well and how they can improve. But I do want to make or point out Kyle Clark right here. He's our experiential learning coordinator for ULN, and give him a big warm welcome. Kyle is one of the important team members for the experiential learning process for all 4 cohorts in ULN. Primarily off-campus, right, connections for some of those off-campus campus partners that we have, and trying to build more industry contacts in all fields here within the city of Austin, so you can have additional opportunities as you move forward to your 2nd and 3rd years. So for this week's peer group, remember, you should already know their names and have their contact information. I did receive a few emails about some conflicts with, start of the semester, we have groups and interviews and info sessions and things like that. If you need a makeup session for your peer group, you have to email your mentor. They're the ones who can sign you up for an alternate session. Regarding this large lecture, remember you do need to notify me prior to completing that makeup assignment, or it still counts as an absence. Next week we will be doing interviews. Yeah, don't be scared with those. Remember, it's a method of building confidence, so it's a good learning opportunity. Put yourself out there. Let go of that fear. Square cap. Remember, one last thing. If you have issues with Square Cap, you have the Square Cap help team. You can just quickly email them if it's complicated. If your response didn't go through and you kept trying this evening, Michelle always has a sheet of paper up here to capture those EIDs. If you had issues with Square Cap and then you leave and you just say, I forgot to sign in, I don't have any way of verifying, so it's an absence. Good luck with the first start of the semester. Let's give Veronica another big round of applause, and we will see you next Tuesday. And she'll be up here for a few minutes if you have questions.